Hello and welcome to Patents in the Wild. My name is Clarissa and I'm an intellectual property specialist with Harity and Harity, who's on a mission to discover some of the hows and whys that lead people to the intellectual property field. Today I'm so excited to be hanging out with Dawn Ross. Dawn is a patent attorney, engineer, and inventor. Welcome, Dawn. Thank you
Hey,
so much for speaking with me today.
thank you for having me. I'm so excited to just chat with you and hopefully encourage some people to join us in the ranks of patent law. It's an interesting field.
Yes, it absolutely is. So getting right to it, how did you decide to become an engineer and then later a patent attorney?
So it is a for brevity's sake, I've always wanted to be an engineer because my big cousin is an engineer. And so I got into school and I am literally 2 credits shy of entering the School of Engineering and well, 2 classes shy. And I was like, I really love law. So, and I took a philosophy course and I loved it. Just the way you think and the just testing the bounds of knowledge. And one of my professors asked me to join the philosophy department. I was like, that would be great for me to go to law school. So I finished my degree with in philosophy and with a minor in communications and went to law school. I got into law school, and after my first exam, my first like midterm, I was like, wait a minute, where's the concrete nature? 2 plus 2 always equals 4. I don't care if you add an X or a Y. I miss the black and white nature of math and engineering. And somewhere along the way, I bumped my head and I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to go to law school and engineering school at the same time. That didn't happen. Thank goodness that did not happen. But I had a professor, Professor Moody. He introduced me to the concept of patent law because I just knew I wanted to still get my engineering degree. And I had no idea that you could merge the two. And he said, come by my office and talk to me. And so we had a great conversation. And from there, I decided that it was official that as soon as I finished law school, I was actually going to go back and finish up my engineering degree. At that time, however, I didn't know what field. I didn't know if I would do mechanical, civil, or electrical, or material sciences. So then I started speaking with various patent attorneys as I went to different conferences, and I started joining with the APA, ABA, not APA, ABA. And when I did that, they said, well, you need to decide a field that's really up and coming. And so I was told to choose between material science or electrical. And me and science are okay, but math is my first love. Like I love, 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 love math. Science has a story that I'm not really familiar with, that we don't really get along so well. So I was like, I'm going to stick with electrical. So, no joke, set for the bar exam. And literally, while sitting for my first physics with calculus 2 exam, I received my Florida bar results. And so the rest was history. So then I finished up my electrical engineering degree. And that's kind of how the two for me began to merge. So I did a little backwards than the average. Most people do engineering first, work in the engineering field for a little while, then go to law school. So I finished law school first and then finished up my electrical engineering degree.
That is so awesome. I'm so glad that your professor realized that that might be a path that would be good for you.
Me too. I was like, thank you. Shout out to Professor Moody.
Great job, Professor Moody.
Yes.
That's
So
awesome.
it was really nice. I think that it was helpful to see how I could merge the fields. And now I've made it a mission of my own to encourage anyone in the STEM field, especially minorities, to become patent agents. Like you don't have to go to law school. And a lot of people don't know that. They don't know that they have the ability to become a patent agent, which is super cool. I'm like, you could avoid the debt and you don't have to go to court if you're not, because most engineers are kind of quiet.
Right.
Most of your STEM people, except for me, because I'm a chat box. But I encourage them to explore that option because it makes you more marketable and you just learn how something is working, all of how it actually materializes when you work in research and development. So I always think it's helpful.
Right. I always think it's good too if you're someone who loves math and science, but then you
Mm-hmm.
also love the English aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
since it just merges all three of those things. It's a great way to have that full circle.
Agreed.
Yeah, like the whole thing is there.
I agree. Agree.
So, what was the most challenging thing about this field when you first started?
The most challenging is the reason why you're doing this. Finding mentors and finding someone who will be willing to take me under their wing. Because one of the things with patent law, like you said, if you love English, but unfortunately it's not normal English, that you have to learn how to draft and write to the specifications that's required by the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And it takes time. It's like learning to form sentences as a young child and making sure that your A and V are correct before you mention it for the first time, and just learning what can you, any superfluous articles that you're claiming of the invention. So the most difficult part was finding mentorship and finding someone who's willing to take me under their wing and guide me and help me with that path to really becoming successful in this industry, and just getting the practical, going from the theoretical that you learn when you go through a patent training course, or even when you're studying for the bar, because you still of course have to learn a lot of the rules, but translating that into the actual practical placement and usage of the laws as well as drafting. It's been a challenge, but a challenge worth having.
Right. How did you end up finding a mentor then? Like, how did you end up overcoming that?
So I went to LinkedIn and I just started Googling, like, well, of course, searching within LinkedIn, looking for people who had patent law. I started looking for people who had an EE designation, because it wasn't a lot of EE designations at the time. And it's still on the search now. I found some really good mentors, but a lot of them are solo practitioners. And when you're a solo practitioner, it's a little more difficult, but
Right.
taking the bits and pieces that I can, and always attending conferences. If I'm not attending a conference, joining things like IP Watchdog and seeing what type of conferences or webinars that they host, and seeing if there's anyone in the room. I joined various different organizations that are centered around IP, such as CHIPS, and I make sure that I remain prevalent, if I can get my words out, and stay interactive with different women, and as well as male mentors all together. But just being willing to accept mentorship or bits and pieces of information from anyone who's willing to share it, and any other different organization that may speak to any specialty, like Les. I want to learn more about licensing, so I joined Les because they hold webinars, and trying to pull it all together.
That's awesome. It does feel like a lot of the people in this field are like so welcoming and like so ready to share their knowledge with other people. I think because it is kind of a small field,
Mm-hmm.
not that many in the grand scheme of things. Not that many people are in it. So it does feel a lot like people are just ready and willing to help.
Pass the torch along. They're like,
Yeah.
I'm ready to retire. So the more
Someone else is gonna have to do this.
pass it along. So it has been helpful. Like I say, either each of those organizations helping and bringing those pieces together.
Awesome. So what do you consider the coolest technology you've ever worked on?
Whew. Let me think. Thinking hat on. No doubt, the coolest technology has to be the powered ophthalmic devices, and in short, powered contact lenses. That I've worked on when I worked for Johnson and Johnson Vision Care. Johnson and Johnson, of course, has an expansive portfolio of companies, and one of their companies, I'm originally from Jacksonville, Florida. The Vision Care, which is called Vistacom, that subsidiary is actually in Jacksonville, where they make all of the contact lenses. And so while working there, one of the things that we were trying to solve is the need for people who need bifocals or have an astigmatism, because then you have to have a contact lens that is shaped specifically for that, or you have to wear a contact lens and then glasses on top of that. So the project that I was working on was a rechargeable powered ophthalmic device that would allow you to automatically, the ocular center would automatically adjust to the strain and tell what your eye is trying to focus, so it know if you need it to be nearsighted or farsighted, automatically based on sensors that are placed within the contact that would modulate the ocular center so that it would give you perfect vision without the need to have or account for your astigmatism, or account for your need for bifocals, or the adjust between needing nearsighted and farsighted. And then we would have it be rechargeable. So I was able to work on the device that would help make the actual circuit board flexible and be able to sit in a polymeric structure, and then how we would use it to recharge, because of course the filaments and circuits that would power the center frame would need to be recharged. So I'm an inventor on the charging mechanism and part of the lens, and they were developing, even trying to do where it had overhead, where almost kind of similar to what we look at when we see Google, or we say, oh, my technology is listening to me. And so it would almost, if you look for a dress, it would look at the item that you're looking at and tell you where you can find it, if it has your size. They wanted some type of technology. The other way that they were thinking about expanding it was to also help truck drivers, so that it would tell you based on the regulations, trucking regulations, if you had enough sleep, they would alert you, or it would have a mini signal to also alert you if you fell asleep or you were getting drowsy, if your eyelids went to a certain level. And then also using it to test and understand biometric features of the body. We know that when you're looking to understand, of course, blood is the standard for testing, such as glucose and any other biomarkers. However, that same concentration and information can be found in your tear ducts as well as your saliva. So using that technology to also be able to sense if someone was having a heart attack or someone was having low blood sugar. So being able to sense also the excretions from your eye fluid. So I thought it was pretty cool.
That is absolutely amazing. And as a bifocal wearer, I thank you. That is so cool. It's like bionic eyes.
Yes, it is. And I was like, this is going to change the face of, just think about it. I think about how many times are you talking to even older people or more mature individuals who need their bifocals, and they're going, where's my glasses? And they're around their neck.
Yeah.
Now they would have bionic eyes forever, and they'd be able to see what the grandchild was doing, literally having eyes behind their head for the rest of their life. So
that is so cool. I love it.
It was really cool.
And like, how did you get there? I mean, like, how does this even happen? This just seems so like sci-fi to me.
So I started because I in the midst, like I said, I did my degrees differently. So my senior year, every year for engineering, you have to do what we call a senior design project. And so one of my jobs was, my senior design project was actually working for VistaCon. And we had to learn how to test the temperature within the chamber that created and did the molding and froze the polymer to create the concave shape for the contact lens. And so the goal was to make sure the temperature was uniform, because if it's not, then the structure doesn't stay the same. So through that, and through colleagues who was smart enough not to go back to school after sitting for the bar, I was recommended to work in their patent drafting area. So that's how I got connected between my senior design and colleagues who figured they had enough torture after law school.
Well, that is so cool. I'm glad that you went through all that torture and came up with it.
Exactly. Well, I'm not the person that came up with it. Now, I will say that I did help with the invent. I would never claim, but I did help with the inventive nature and take it steps further and kind of talk about how do you break up that structure, because initially they wanted to do just one whole piece. And I was like, well, why not have many structures and antennas that communicate, so that increases its flexibility? So I had my hand, but our director was actually the brains behind the operation. I was just the writer and the expander. He used to call me his muse. So I'll take credit for that. I was his muse.
Well, you were instrumental.
Yes, thank you.
So one last thing, do you have any advice for anyone who's like thinking about going into this field, or maybe has, a love of STEM and hasn't considered this kind of job before?
Excellent question. I do. Get your LinkedIn profile together. That's the first thing. Always have a very up-to-date LinkedIn profile. I would also encourage you to look for mentors who are not necessarily directly related to the field, but are adjacent to. So people who do franchising, people who do licensing, and keep your eyes open. Join various different organizations that speak to intellectual property law, but also don't be afraid to blog. Don't be afraid to write articles and volunteer on different initiatives that are available through the various organizations. I know I did a project with the APA. Yeah, no, ABA. I don't know why I want to keep saying APA. I
One of
promise I
them.
know what one of them, one of the A's and the B's and the A's. But join that, and we went through and we looked at some of the research because that exposes you to people who are in this field and have more knowledge to share with you, and they're always willing to share it when they see you working and plowing in the field. But share those articles, create articles. If there's an interesting case that you like or that you found very interesting, write a review on it, share it on LinkedIn, be active on LinkedIn so that you get noticed. And more than anything, understand that you are going to be a forever student, but that is okay. For every case that you touch, every time technology changes, you need to stay abreast on that. So be okay with being a forever student, and be okay with and understand that it is progress, not perfection. So always aim for progress. See if you're making way as you head through this career, and not look for perfection, because it doesn't exist. Because anything you submit to the patent office, you're not getting it all anyway.
Yeah,
So always aim for progress and not perfection.
I love that. That's something I need to remember too. Progress, not perfection. I feel like we could all use that reminder.
I need it on a shirt. I need it on
Yes,
the on the bottom of my computer. Progress,
coffee
not
mug.
perfection.
Yes.
A constant reminder. So give yourself grace and hedge forward. But I always encourage you, sponsorship and mentorship is very important in this field. And be willing to, go on the unbeaten path.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me today. This was absolutely amazing. And I just really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to sit with me.
Thank you for having me. And I look forward to any other opportunities to share patents in the wild with you.
Awesome.